You know, you can ask yourself why it's important. You know that I read that the customer today, the intention span today is less than a goldfish. Which means that if you're not creating attention or getting the customer's attention within a couple of seconds, you lose them. And I also have the same feeling for my personal level today is that, you know, you have been here since 8 o'clock this morning. You have heard a lot of good stories. So now I'm wondering how to create attention so I keep your attention. So who am I? Let's see how this works. So I'm working as an industry director at Teradata. And I have main focus on the retail industry. But as I used to say that retail industry is the leader when it comes to understand customer and how to engage with customers. So if you ask me personally, I would say that every industry soon will become retail industry. Teradata, normally people think that we're only selling hardware, but we're not. We're selling hardware, software, and we're selling on cloud solutions, but also we have a consulting service, which is my focus area. I don't know anything about what you have been talking about today. I'm not a techie person whatsoever. I just understand the business. So how many of you today having the business side? Oh, a few of you. Great. Which saves my time. So the thing with data is that everything has to start with a strategy. And I have heard many of you talking about long-term understanding where you're going, you know, where to start and so forth. But at the end of the day, you need to have a vision. You know, I travel globally and have a lot of management meetings. And you will be surprised how shocked or, you know, not knowing what to do with data. They have no clue, many of them. And it's not only in Sweden, I would say not only in Europe, it's globally. There are very many companies where on top level management, they have no clue. Even though it's their responsibility to drive the change of the company. I used to say that there are two focus areas. Either they focus on cost side. So if you talk with a CFO, he or she will talk about the cost side. We need to collect data because drive the cost side, which means reducing cost. So if you are in the industry that working with the business to business, I say fine, focus on cost side, because there you can work with optimization, maintenance, everything. You have all sorts of data that you can collect, reducing cost side. But if you have a focus on the customer side, that strategy doesn't work. I promise you, I haven't met one company who starts focusing on the cost side, who has managed focusing on the customer side. And I don't know why, because they're so stuck in supply chain, they're so focused on fraud detection, so they lose a market share because the customer has left them for someone else who's been focusing on their needs. So why is it important to focus on the customer side? Because, you know, the only thing that customer is about today, they are loyal only to themselves. They are searching for convenience. They would like to save time, save energy. They would like to get inspired. And that's why all industry we see that has business to consumer relationship, they are struggling. And they're all trying to understand how should we get in touch with the most valued asset we have, the customer. There are many companies that is really good in doing this one. Because they're also smart in the way how they're trying to transform the business. there's endless of opportunities when it comes to collecting data. The endless opportunity is a challenge for the company. Because the more opportunities you have, the harder it is to get a right direction. Because everything is possible. You know, I have my watch tracking everything I do, and I'm not the only one. More and more people is using sensor data without even thinking about they're using sensor data, that they are actually providing companies with information. You know, Garmin knows a lot of me. You know, my payment, my profile, my heartbeat, how often I exercise. You know, I don't want to think about what they know more about my activities, but they know a fairly amount of information around me in my personal life. And also, you know, I'm also giving lecture at the university. And you would be surprised that the student at university from a business students, they have very low knowledge about data and all the traces they are leaving behind. They need information because they are the next generation business manager. And they have no clue how to use it. So it's not strange that business manager don't know how to start it, because they have no one that is actually challenging them. I used to say that when the management start to focusing on how to transform the business is when the gross margin is so low, so it's actually forced to change because it's a matter of survive. If you don't change the business model or change the way they are doing business, they will be out of business. You know, we have also this Hyperization, which is a term describing how the business is changing. It's actually influencing every industry. So, I will give you some examples. I can see the text is not, it's perfect there. 4 examples from 4 different kind of companies that are in our client base, who has been through this transformation journey for quite some year. And the first one is Aviva. Do any one of you know Aviva? Some. It's a UK-based insurance company. They have 31 million customers. And as the manager said that, you know, buying insurance today, it's, you know, how interesting is that, you know? You have a very low engagement. You have very few touch points from a company perspective. So they say that, you know, they faced a challenge where they have increased competition. And they need to understand, how can we be relevant in the few times when we actually interact with the customers? So their strategy focus was retention, securing that the customer base stayed in as the shape as it was today. So what they did, they actually collected 50 different kind of data sources, everything from call center, mail conversations, response from email campaigns and so forth. And with this, they say that the goal was also to secure that every coworker in the company should have access to the same data, same customer information. And what they achieved, they have 20% increased conversion rate, which is a massive. And they have also decreased cost from data management perspective. And they also have increased in loyalty, because they were relevant every time they have contact with a customer. And I must say that from personal level, I changed my insurance company last Friday because I felt that they didn't treat me well. Even though I had been there for 15 years, they actually didn't know my preference and my behavior, so I shifted to another one. And that is so important for many industries to really understand how to be relevant each time. Sorry, what is, there it is. The other customer example is Netflix, which I assume everyone knows, and most likely most of you also have using Netflix. And what they did is that they were founded in 97, so they're fairly young as a company. And they have in the strategy to be relevant already from the beginning as a new company. They say that they had a massive expansion plan. So when they changed the business model and decided to have a growth plan, which means that going to new markets and have much more subscribers, they need to have as I would say, data platform, new strategy. So their strategy was growth. So what they did, they collect all kind of data information from a customer touch points, you know exactly what devices I'm using, film I'm looking at, how many minutes, which person is in my family seeing the film, where I am. And with this kind of insight, they're actually so relevant. So they grew from, within 5 years, from 25 million subscribers to 75 million subscribers. And they are today active in 190 countries, something like that. Massive, really impressive. Third one is a UK-based fashion retailer, JD Williams. Have anyone heard about JD Williams? No? You know, they are really cool. They are a fashion retailer, and the main target group is middle-aged women. And they were a former catalog retailer, old-fashioned one. They decided some 5 years ago that the catalog customers will slowly decrease. So they need to transform their business. So what they did, they launched a web page that they decided from day one to be automatic, which means it is dynamic. So based on the preference behavior, they can drive sales through attribution, which means recommendation, next best offer. They know exactly if I'm a bargain hunter, you know, if I'm, you know, fashion, interested in that and so forth. And they have actually increased, the first year, they added on £4 million in incremental sales and had the reduced marketing spend 30% in that combination. It's massively. So if you're interested on dynamic communication, they are very good in that. Fourth one is another company that I assume everyone knows. It's Walt Disney. And what they do with the customer insight, I won't talk about this one from a customer perspective. What they do in the back end using the insight is actually they're manning the Disneyland. They know exactly where you are, so you know how long time you stay in each place. What you're shopping, because the same bracelet is also your payment solution. So know when you're checking in, checking out, in what location, and so forth. And they are using that to do the manning of Disneyland. Manning is the biggest cost side for many companies, especially in the retail and entertainment space. And they also know what kind of communication to drive in specific location. They're changing agile depending on the behavior when I'm visiting. Because normally in US, they stay 3 days at Disneyland. So if you have a certain client one day, they know that they have to change some of the communication and some of the manning day 2 and 3 based on analytics. Thing here, why they have been so successful, it's partnership. My learning from my experience as a manager in marketing and sales is that partnership is crucial. And it's multi-dimensional partnership. The most important partnership is actually between business managers and IT. And I have one question to you. How many of you working from the IT side know the long-term strategy from the business side? Very few. I'm not surprised. You know, that is, I would say that if you don't know the long-term strategy from a business perspective, you will have hard time to understand what data to collect, how to support the business, and how to challenge the business as well. So that's the first thing, partnership, business, and IT. The second one is partnership with your customer. Secure that you're always relevant, that you give them something, so they are willing to give you something, in this case, data. And I would say that there is endless of possibilities. Just try to find the right ones. Thank you.